Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza is brought to you by Sport Relay. Honest, unbiased, and apolitical. Sport Relay, your connection to the diamond. And by A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs, Volumes 1 and 2 by Evan Thompson. Relive the glory, the complete history of the Major League Baseball Playoffs. This week on Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza, we go through some injury updates. We update the Drew Pomeranz ticker. We reveal our latest team power rankings for each league and our individual middle reliever, setup man, and closer power rankings for each league as of the end of Week 13. And we have a visit with our special guest, Thomas Harding of MLB.com. Don't go away. Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza begins now. Welcome to Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza. I'm your host, Evan Thompson, Editor-in-Chief, National Writer, and Athletics Writer at Sport Relay. I also wrote these two books. If you are interested in ordering a copy or two, there are links in the description box below this video. It's Volume 1 of A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs. That runs from the pre-divisional tiebreakers through 1976. And Volume 2 of A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs, which runs from 1977 through 1984. We have just completed the 13th week of the 2025 season. Our statistics include all games through the end of play on Wednesday, June 25th. Let's take a look at some of the biggest stories from the past week in the world of relief pitching. We begin with some injury news. The Houston Astros placed right-handed middle reliever Sean Dubin on the 15-day injured list June 21st with a strained forearm. The Pittsburgh Pirates placed left-handed middle reliever Ryan Borucki on the 15-day injured list on June 21st with lower back inflammation. As of Wednesday the 25th, he had resumed light baseball activities but was not throwing yet. Rays middleman Hunter Biggie is still recovering from his right lat strain and hamstring soreness. But on June 19th, he had a monkey wrench thrown in his recovery timeline when he was hit in the face by a foul ball in the Rays dugout. He had surgery to address facial fractures Friday the 20th and was released from the hospital Saturday the 21st, thankfully avoiding more significant injury. His expected return is still to be determined. The Red Sox should have right-handed middleman Jordan Hicks back from his toe injury by the end of the month. Promising news for the Blue Jays as both Yimi Garcia and Ryan Burr are scheduled to pitch in rehab for the AAA Buffalo Bisons, Burr on Friday the 27th and Garcia on Sunday the 29th. Garcia will rejoin the Blue Jays soon afterwards if all goes well, and Burr might be back in early July depending on the outcome of his appearance. We referred to the specific team sites on MLB.com to get the latest details on these injuries, so credit goes to them. And we at Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza wish everyone a safe and healthy recovery. Now it is time once again for the Drew Pomeranz ticker. As of Wednesday, June 25th, he still has not allowed an earned run in a major league game since July 27th, 2021 against the then Oakland Athletics. His scoreless streak is now up to 28 appearances. His streak of not allowing any inherited runners to score ended this past Saturday the 21st against the Seattle Mariners when he let in 2. However, he still has not allowed an earned run on the road since September 25th, 2020 at Oracle Park in San Francisco in the second game of a doubleheader. That is especially pertinent this week as the Cubs begin a 6-game road trip this weekend. We will go through the team power rankings when we come back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza. It is time for the Team Relief Corps Power Rankings. They include every pitch thrown in relief by a player wearing their uniform, excluding position pitchers. This table shows the scoring breakdown. Teams are ranked in clutch, run prevention, base runner prevention, and command, weighted as shown. The final score determines the ranking. 0 means right at league average. Positive is better than league average. Negative is below league average. A score of 100 means the team is 100% better than league average. A score of 50 is 50% better, and so on. Each whole number represents 1 percentage point. Statistics run through the end of play on Wednesday, June 25th. We will start with the number 30 team and work our way to number 1. American League teams will appear in red. National League teams will appear in blue. The first number in parentheses after the team name is their rank within their specific league. The number after the comma indicates the change in their major league rank since our last episode, which was week 12. Here we go. Our first group is pray for a blowout win. This includes one team. At number 30, unchanged from week 12 with a score of negative 14.3, is the Chicago White Sox. The next group, stock up on Tums, has 3 teams. Number 29, unchanged from week 12, is the Washington Nationals, scoring negative 10.5. Number 28, also unchanged from week 12, is the Atlanta Braves, scoring negative 7.9. And at number 27, with negative 5.5, also unchanged in rank from week 12, is the Arizona Diamondbacks. In the lots of work to do group, we have 4 teams. Number 26, after falling a spot, with negative 4.7, the Colorado Rockies. With negative 3.2 is our number 25 team, one that climbed a spot, the Los Angeles Angels. Finishing the week 24th, unchanged from week 12, with negative 1.8, the Milwaukee Brewers. And our number 23 team, dropping 1 spot from week 12 with 1.0, is the Baltimore Orioles. Slightly below average, has 5 teams. Number 22, after falling 4 spots, is the Tampa Bay Rays with a score of 2.3. 21st, a 1-spot drop from week 12 after a score of 3.4, is the Detroit Tigers. In 20th, after climbing 3 spots with 3.6, the St. Louis Cardinals. At number 19, after climbing 2 spots with 3.9, the Texas Rangers. And coming in 18th, after climbing a spot with 5.1, is the Athletics. The average has 3 teams. 17 and 16 traded spots this week. Number 17 with 7.0 is the Philadelphia Phillies. Number 16 with 7.1 is the Pittsburgh Pirates. And coming in 15th after falling 1 spot with 7.5 is the Los Angeles Dodgers. Slightly above average has 4 teams. In 14th after falling a spot with 8.8, the Minnesota Twins. Number 13 after climbing 2 spots with 10.4, the Toronto Blue Jays. At number 12 after falling a spot with 11.2, the Cincinnati Reds. And number 11 after climbing a spot with 11.7 is the New York Yankees. The good has 1 team, and it is the Kansas City Royals, who fell a spot to number 10 after earning a score of 16.4. The very good has 4 teams in this go-around. At number 9, after climbing a spot, is the Seattle Mariners with 20.8. Number 8 is the Boston Red Sox, who fell 4 spots despite a respectable score of 22.2. Coming in 7th, down a spot from week 12, is the New York Mets with 22.7. And number 6 is the Chicago Cubs, who fell a spot after notching 23.8. Our next group, better take an early lead, has 2 teams. Number 5, after climbing 2 spots, is the San Diego Padres with 26.7. And rounding out the duo is the number 4 Houston Astros, who climbed 4 spots after scoring 28.0. The next group, the Elite, also has 2 teams. They traded places between week 12 and week 13. Third, with 32.0, is the Miami Marlins. And second, with 33.5, is the American League's top relief corps after 13 weeks, the Cleveland Guardians. And number one by a comfortable margin yet again, albeit a narrower margin than last week, with 41.9 is the top relief corps in the National League. Der Uber-Bullpen, the San Francisco Giants. The biggest gainers in this edition of the rankings are the Astros, who climbed 4 spots, the Cardinals, who climbed 3, and the Padres, Rangers, and Blue Jays, who each gained 2. The biggest drops came from the American League East, the Boston Red Sox and the Tampa Bay Rays, who each fell 4 spots. Before we end this segment, a look at this week's scatter plot. Fascinating, wasn't it? We will be right back with our guest, Thomas Harding. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza, our first audio interview due to Zoom not cooperating. I have with me one of the greats of the game, Thomas Harding, who has covered the Rockies since 2000 and for MLB.com since 2002. He knows baseball better than most people know themselves. Great man, great friend. Thomas, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Let's say that the Zooms that we attempted are kind of like the Rocky season. We kind of fell apart in the beginning and we tried to keep it together at the end and look through this, right?
Right, yeah, that's a great metaphor right there. So, the Rockies, you know, they haven't had a great season, and that's an understatement. I don't know if they're still on pace to set the record for the most losses, but they were for quite a while. But when you have a team that isn't protecting late leads very often, how do you approach bullpen usage in that situation?
Well, I think you're looking at two different plans here, because at the beginning of the season, and I think that they went in this year thinking they could stay close and find a way to win some games. It didn't happen. They were getting blown out a lot early. For the last, about month or a little bit, well, right about a month, they've had a lot closer games. So they're running their 10 a lot like other teams. If you look at the starting rotation right now, Kyle Freeland's coming off the IL, but Chase Dollander has turned out to be a pretty strong rookie for them. He's given them some consistency. Austin Gomber is back in the rotation, so his 3 starts have been pretty good. Ramon Marquez is on a really good run here as far as results are concerned, and I think he and Antonio Senzatella, their arms are coming back from the Tommy John surgery of a couple of years ago, and they've really had a hard time getting consistent help. And then Ryan Cutler's coming back. So I suspect that there are going to be more games that they're in. Now, the sign of some truly bad teams is when you have a chance to win, and you never do. So that'll be the question that the Rockies will have to answer. With the bullpen, that'll be a big part of it. Can they find ways to put away these games that they're actually in?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And along the lines of what you were saying, yesterday when I was watching the game to possibly see Clayton Kershaw get his 3,000th strikeout, I actually had the Dodgers feed on, and their announcing team was mentioning that the Rockies starters had done very well in that series, and then when the pen came in is when the Dodgers really put the game away.
You know, a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're the Dodgers. And also, if you look at the Rockies head right now, the only left-hander is Brian Mollison, who is a kind of former starter, number one pick, is just getting to the major leagues, but giving him some experience. So a lot of those big situations are falling to Tyler Kinley, who has good numbers against lefties, but a couple nights ago, Max Muncy got him, and he gave up one yesterday, but those things are going to happen to a bullpen. So you're talking about a team that is maybe deficient in some areas, but you're also talking about just things that happen to a bullpen, and sometimes you need to score runs to win those games, believe it or not.
Yeah, and for a team that plays in a park like Coors Field that's at elevation and with such big gaps, for a long time, scoring runs wasn't a problem the Rockies had, but now it's flipped around a bit.
What's strange is that the only two series they've won this year have been on the road. They swept the Marlins, and they won the first three and lost in extra innings in the fourth game. Where they are playing better for whatever reason on the road than at home. But this team is, I remember Bud Black, the former manager, he started using the phrase under construction. I mean, they're at the very beginnings of the construction. We're talking going to Home Depot or wherever you buy the bricks right now. So there are a lot of things that this team is a long way from being there with, and that's what you see.
All right, yeah. That's a good point. And I like Bud's analogy there. He was very good at those analogies.
Yeah, right now what you're seeing also is Warren Schaefer, the interim manager. This is a teaching project. They went to Warren Schaefer, who had managed this team through the minors. He had a minor league career and ended up going straight into coaching and managing. So he may be the right guy at this time for the team. They're playing, like I say, they're playing a lot closer games. They won 9 games in June, which equals the total for April and May. So you're talking about maybe the progress that no one wants to hear about at this point. But you have to deal with these things. And I think there are things you're doing from the offensive and defensive standpoint that are more teaching than, say, major league type runner in the organization, but you have to deal with what you have. Yeah, and
Warren Schaefer, in the year I got to cover the Rockies alongside you last year, one thing I noticed about Warren Schaefer is he is one of the most positive people on the planet.
Well, I think the key, though, with him is they're doing some things to where, yes, players are accountable, but you don't want to make it this thing like you guys lost and they're coming down on you, because I think that tends to pile up. If you look at this team, and this is not what Black's doing, but if you look at how bad April and May were, they were coming to the park with a weight on their back every day. By winning a few games, you're starting to see them at least feel like, hey, this is about today. I think that they've been trying to work past every time they wake up. They hear that they're the worst team ever assembled at this pace, at this stage of the season. If they can ignore some of that, they can make some progress. Now, whether that's going to win them a lot of games, who knows? Maybe at the end, they're going to be the worst team in the modern era of baseball. But you don't get there by waking up every day thinking of what happened in April and May.
That's a great point. Now, to shift gears a little bit, only a little bit though, Denver is not exactly a choice pitching destination. How do you build a pen when that is your situation?
Well, what's interesting is you have a lot more success with relief pitchers than starters. Go back to the last 2 years, they went to the playoffs. Greg Holland and then Wade Davis, each of those guys led the league in saves in their year as the closer for the Rockies. You go back and you look at some of the better teams. I mean, we could talk going all the way back to 2007. By the way, we do that a lot with the Rockies because that was the glory time. You have the glory year and then glory year. But if you look at 2007, they had a young pitcher, Manny Corpus, come in and become the closer right when Brian Fuentes went through some struggles. But Fuentes was one of the best left-handed setup guys going in the game. Hey, he had gone to the All-Star game as a closer and helped in the World Series as a setup guy. You had LaTroy Hawkins and Matt Burgess and any number of veteran types they were able to pick up. So you can pick up veterans in the bullpen. It's starting pitching that you really can't do much with. You can count on less than one hand the number of starters who had a choice in free agency that signed with this team. That is simply not going to happen. So a lot of times what you do is you build a bullpen and then you develop the starters for the organization. But if you have a chance, if you feel like you have a chance to have a good team, you can't go out and get those parts in the bullpen.
There have been several guys this season who have left the Rockies and are now doing very well. I'll list off a few of them. Drew Pomeranz, Nick Mears, who are the top two in our rankings in middle relief this week for the National League. Jalen Beeks, who has done pretty well with the Diamondbacks. Justin Lawrence, before he got hurt in Pittsburgh, was doing extremely well. Pierce Johnson has done well for the Braves. Carlos Estevez has done well for first the Angels and now the Royals. Jeff Hoffman made the All-Star team last year with the Phillies. Now on the Blue Jays, he's doing extremely well.
Yeah, you see a lot of this go on, and a lot of this goes back to some things that I've talked about, but also some things that may even bear out with the Rockies right now. Let's talk about a couple of those guys that you mentioned, Drew Pomeranz and Jeff Hoffman. When they were here, they were starters. For the Rockies, because they don't have starting pitching signing as veterans, a lot of times you're trying to exhaust developing them here. Well, Drew Pomeranz has turned out to be a very good reliever in this game, and so has Jeff Hoffman. So what happens is maybe they exhaust their ability to start, or they find out they're not starters, and as you're developing them as a reliever, then maybe you need to make a trade involved with them, like with Jeff Hoffman, or they just simply go elsewhere and find their maturity level and find their role. So that's what you have in a lot of those cases. In the other cases, Carlos Estevez pitched pretty well for the Rockies. There were some up and down periods, like with all relievers, but when he had the opportunity, the money was there with the Angels, so he ends up going there. You'll see that some. Let's go to Nick Mears, who's the guy that brought in from the Pirates, and then he's here. He's on his third team, Milwaukee, and I think it is just a perfect situation for him in that he was pitching, I thought, pretty well in Denver. He was giving up some home runs. Maybe some teams picked up some things on him. He goes to Milwaukee in a playoff run, and it helps him. So there are a lot of reasons what you would say about the Rockies is this. Let's look at the top 10 right now. Most of their guys still have minor league options. You've got three guys that have what you would call decent amount of experience in the major leagues: Tyler Kinley, Jimmy Herget, and Jake Bird. And Bird really not as much as Kinley as say Kinley does. The rest of the guys are either 0 to 1 or 1 to 2 years major league service time. So you have some very young relievers. Either they're going to develop here, or they're going to struggle here, or maybe when it's time for them to move on, that's when they go to the other team with enough experience and enough games to top. So it's a tough you deal with, but I think what you have to do here, especially if you're not a playoff type team, you have to develop your young relievers, maybe even transfer some starters, and then when you're close, go out and get those veterans.
I have heard a rumor, I don't know if maybe you can confirm this, that the Brewers saw Nick Mears when they were in Denver and really, really liked him and thought basically if they could get him out of Denver that he would be an extremely good pitcher, and that's why they went after him so hard at the deadline. Is that true?
That is true. I mean, and that'll be the question. And we talk about the relievers right now, like Jake Bird. Do you try to get him out of Denver? I mean, that's a common thing. That if I can get this guy out of Denver, then he's going to be a lot better.
And I mentioned Justin Lawrence going to the Pirates. You mentioned Nick Mears coming from the Pirates. Speaking of the Pirates, I know you don't cover them, but we talked about this a few days ago, and I liked what you said, so I'm going to include it here. The Pirates, when David Bednar started to struggle earlier this year, they made Dennis Santana the closer, and Dennis Santana did extremely well. He did a great job for them. And then when David Bednar got his footing again, they made Bednar the closer again, even though Santana did better as the closer than Bednar is doing now. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that especially if you're a team in a situation like the Pirates, you want to increase David Bednar's value. If he's pitching in the ninth inning and he ends up kind of catching some fire there, then maybe a team will give you a little bit more for him at the deadline. I mean, I just can't see David Bednar finishing his season in black and gold. And then you could go back to Santana and kind of develop him as a major league closer that way. I mean, he's still going to pitch. He's still going to pitch in big situations. You would hope that the Pirates have enough really key situations before the ninth inning where he shows his value in another way.
Along those lines, he has, as a setup man, still done extremely well. So you're a wise man. You've covered baseball a long time, and right there, that was some very sage wisdom from the great Thomas Harding. That's about all we have for you today, Thomas. Do you have anything to tell fans who haven't watched the Rockies yet? Anything to look for in their bullpen?
Well, I think if you look at the arms, they're pretty good young arms. You have a guy like a Seth Halverson who throws well over 100 miles an hour. You have Juan Mejia, who I think can definitely be a really good late-game reliever. Even at the AAA level, Zach Agnos, who came up and struggled, they sent him down. And that's the thing, probably a point you want to make about a bullpen on a young team like this, that most of the guys in the pen, there are only two guys in the pen, Tyler Kinley and Jimmy Hergen, who don't have minor league options. Everybody else has them. So you have a guy like, say, Zach Agnos. He becomes this team's closer, runs into some struggles, but they send him down. You have a number of guys, Angel Chavidi. You have Luis Peralta. They got in a trade with the Milwaukee Brewers last year. They've been up and down. You're trying to develop depth that way, where you have guys in the major leagues, and maybe if they get tired or they struggle, you continue the training part to where you have a bullpen that has good arms, and then if you're ever close, then you go out and you get the free agent type release.
Well, thank you, Thomas, for stopping by here, and thank you for your patience through our technical difficulties. It was fun having you on. Hope to have you on again soon.
All right, yeah, man, who knows, maybe the next time, the actual video.
Yeah, maybe the actual video next time. For some reason, maybe there's some, magnetic vortex over my house today or something goofy with my internet. I don't know. But anyway, Thomas, thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
All right, thanks, man.
We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza. It is time for the individual power rankings. Statistics include every regular season game through the end of play on Wednesday, June 25th. To qualify for the rankings, there is a minimum of 18 relief appearances this week. And for the Goose Egg per Broken Egg Plus stat, which forms the bulk of our clutch category, there is a minimum of 9 Goose Eggs plus Broken Eggs required. A link to our ranking methods is in the description box below this video. First is the American League Middle Relievers. Number 10 with 11.4 from the New York Yankees, Mark Leiter Jr. Number 9 comes from Los Angeles Angels with 11.6,
Hector Neris.
Coming in 8th with 12.0 from the Minnesota Twins, Brock Stewart. At number 7 with 13.5 from the Cleveland Guardians, Matt Festa. In 6th, with 18.4 from the Kansas City Royals, Steven Cruz. Number 5, with 26.2 from the Baltimore Orioles, Brian Baker. Number 4, with 30.6, comes from the Houston Astros, Stephen Okert. At number 3, scoring 33.1, is Stephen Okert's teammate on the Houston Astros, Bennett Sousa. Number 2, with 45.4, is from the Minnesota Twins, Danny Coulombe. He's no longer number 1. That's because our new number 1 appears in the season-long rankings here for the first time now that he has enough appearances to be eligible. With 66.6 from the Toronto Blue Jays, Braden Fisher. Now the National League middle relievers. These first 3 all come from the Atlanta Braves. Number 10 with 13.2, Pierce Johnson, whom Thomas referred to earlier. Number 9 with 13.36, rounded to 13.4, Enyel de los Santos. And number 8 with 13.44, rounded down to 13.4, Rafael Montero. At number 7 with 16.3 from the Los Angeles Dodgers, Ben Kasparius. In 6th with 18.2 from the Cincinnati Reds, Lyon Richardson. Number 5 comes from the Colorado Rockies. With a score of 18.8, someone Thomas also referred to earlier, Jake Bird. Number 4 with a score of 19.9 from the Los Angeles Dodgers, Jack Dreyer. At number 3 with a score of 24.9 from the Chicago Cubs, Caleb Thielbar. Number 2 with a score of 29.3 from the Milwaukee Brewers, Nick Mears. And number 1 yet again, with 41.5 points. We even have a ticker for him, so this will come as no shock to anybody here. From the Chicago Cubs, Drew Pomeranz. Before we announce the top 10 American League setup men, a side note. The injured Justin Slayton of the Boston Red Sox scored 108.0, which would have put him in 4th place. At number 10, with 59.0 points from the Cleveland Guardians, Hunter Gaddis. Coming in 9th from the Texas Rangers with 63.0 points, Chris Martin. In 8th with 64.8 points from the Tampa Bay Rays, Edwin Uceta. Number 7 with 69.5 points from the Boston Red Sox, Garrett Whitlock. In 6th with 72.3 points from the Texas Rangers, Hobie Milner. Number 5 with 73.9 points from the Toronto Blue Jays, Brendan Little. Number 4 with 78.2, also from the Minnesota Twins, Griffin Jax. Massive jump in points between number 4 and number 3. With 123.3 from the Houston Astros, Brian Abreu. Number 2 with 133.6 from the Kansas City Royals, Lucas Erceg. He's no longer number 1. That's because Cade Smith of the Cleveland Guardians finished this week with 158.4 points. Next, the National League setup men. Number 10 comes from the Cincinnati Reds with 69.8, Tony Santillan. And number 9 from the Chicago Cubs with 71.8, Brad Keller. Coming in 8th with 73.9 from the San Diego Padres, Jeremiah Estrada. With 80.5 is our number 7 National League setup man, the man who throws from near the ground, from the San Francisco Giants, Tyler Rogers. In 6th with 84.0 from the Atlanta Braves, Dylan Lee. At number 5 with 94.5 from the San Diego Padres, Jason Adam. Number 4 with 98.0 from the Philadelphia Phillies, Orion Kerkering. Number 3 is a newcomer to the setup man leaderboard this week, but he is someone that has been ranked either 1st or 2nd among National League middle relievers in every Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza episode of the current season. With 188.8 from the San Francisco Giants, one of the pitchers shown in the opening credits to our show, welcome to the setup man leaderboard, Randy Rodriguez. So huge jump between number 4 and number 3. Not as much of a jump between number 3 and number 2. With 198.4 from the St. Louis Cardinals, Phil Maton. And number 1 with 202.6 points from the Pittsburgh Pirates, Dennis Santana. Now, some viewers, especially those who are fans of the Atlanta Braves, might be asking yourselves why Dylan Lee was a setup man. Here's why. The Braves currently have a closer by committee, and what we do here at Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza is if there are co-closers, meaning there are 2 people who trade off as the closer, we make both of them a closer. But when there are more than 2 closers, when it's a closer committee, we make all of them setup men. Moving on to the American League closers. Number 5 from the Los Angeles Angels and with 104.5 points, Kenley Jansen. At number 4 with 142.2 points from the Boston Red Sox, Aroldis Chapman. Number 3 from the Detroit Tigers with 148.2, Will Vest. Gigantic leap in points between Vest and our number 2, who has 272.9 from the Seattle Mariners, Andres Munoz. And our number 1 for the second week in a row with 298.5 from the Houston Astros, Josh Hader. And finally, the National League closers. Suspended Phillies closer Jose Alvarado still has enough appearances and goose eggs plus broken eggs to qualify. And if we included him in the ranks, he'd be number 4 with 125.3 points. Number 5 with 77.6. Another person Thomas mentioned earlier, from the Colorado Rockies, Seth Halverson. Number 4 with 91.5 from the Milwaukee Brewers, Trevor McGill. Number 3 from the Miami Marlins with 107.4, Calvin Fauché. A jump of nearly 100 points to number 2 with 206.0 from the New York Mets, last week's number 1, Edwin Diaz. And back to number 1 with 210.7 from the San Diego Padres, Robert Suarez. That concludes this installment of Reliever Roundup and Bullpen Bonanza from Sport Relay. Join us next time when we have an extra large episode that combines our June awards and June rankings with the weekly power rankings for week 14. I'm Evan Thompson. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. Thank you for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like. Click subscribe so you'll never miss an episode of this show or of our other show, Trade Trees. Tell your friends and baseball contacts. If you haven't done so yet, consider buying my books, A Complete History of the Major League Baseball Playoffs, Volume 1 and Volume 2. There are links in the description box below this video. And finally, bookmark and regularly visit sportrelay.com. Until next time, this is Evan Thompson saying so long for now.